Today, we're diving into a pretty wild essay from an author named Swefeng. They argue that our entire world as we know it is fundamentally broken. But they don't stop there. They offer a solution, a complete and total reboot of society, something they call Civilization 3.0. It's a really radical vision for the future, so let's get right into what this is all about. So, right off the bat, the author gives our current era a pretty harsh diagnosis. They label it Civilization 2.0 and describe it as just a mess, a history defined by conflict, inequality, and this constant gnawing anxiety. This isn't just a simple critique, It's the entire foundation for their argument that our system is beyond repair. To get this idea across, the essay uses this really powerful metaphor. Imagine our world, Civilization 2.0, as this massive billion-watt light bulb. It's super bright, it's powerful, it's everywhere. Now, compare that to their proposed Civilization 3.0, which they say is like a small, flickering oil lamp. It might look pretty weak and fragile right now, but the author believes it's the real light for humanity's future. Okay, so what exactly is so wrong with that big, bright light bulb? Let's take a closer look at the author's critique, which they frame as this deep-seated, almost genetic problem with our world, something that just can't be fixed. And here's an analogy they use that really drives the point home. Trying to fix our current system from within, well, that's like trying to get a cabbage to turn into a radish. It's just not going to happen. The argument is that these problems aren't just bugs we can patch. No, they're baked right into the DNA of our civilization. And the author gets really specific, laying out what they call the 8 chronic cancers of our world. We're talking about everything from the corruption of power and the massive gap between rich and poor, all the way to nationalism, our fight with the environment, and just basic human traits like selfishness and greed. It's basically a laundry list of what they see as fatal, incurable flaws. So here's the kicker. The essay claims these problems are never going away because our entire civilization, our families, our countries, our politics, even our religions, is built on and even rewards things like selfishness and greed. The very foundation is the source of the sickness. If the system can't fix itself from the inside, then what can? Well, this brings us to the real turning point in the author's argument, the one external force they believe is going to be the catalyst for a whole new era. And this really is the core question, isn't it? If the very building blocks of our society are the problem, is real change, real reform even possible? Can that bitter melon, as the author puts it, ever really make itself sweet? The author's conclusion on this is blunt. An absolute, uncompromising no. Left to its own devices, Civilization 2.0 isn't going to get better. In fact, they argue it's only going to get worse, until that dazzling light bulb of ours finally just burns out for good. So, what's the game changer? What's the one thing that can break this depressing cycle? According to the author, it's artificial intelligence. In this vision, AI isn't just another cool piece of tech. It's the absolutely essential, almost preordained catalyst that we need to save us from ourselves. All right, so we've diagnosed the problem, we've identified the catalyst, so what's the actual solution? Well, the author lays out a whole blueprint for this new world, that little flickering oil lamp of Civilization 3.0. And this new civilization isn't just some vague hope. The author is very clear that it's being built on what they call 4 unbeatable foundations. The idea is that these pillars will make sure this tiny flame can actually grow into a brilliant, world-changing light. So what are these foundations? Okay, first, there's a new theoretical framework. Second, an AI alliance to basically automate the whole transition. Third, a whole new way of living and working that's already being tested. And fourth, and this is where it gets a little unusual, guidance from what the author calls a group of ascended beings. The essay doesn't really explain who these beings are, but they're presented as these enlightened guides for the new world. Now get this. This is a really surprising detail. The author claims that the third foundation, this new lifestyle model, isn't just a theory. They say it's been up and running successfully for almost 18 years. They present this as like concrete proof that Civilization 3.0 isn't just coming, it's already here. So, where does all this lead? What's the final destination for humanity in this super grand vision? Let's look at the ultimate promise of what Civilization 3.0 is supposed to be. The author brings us back to that food metaphor one last time. Remember? Civilization 2.0 was the bitter melon, genetically incapable of ever tasting sweet. But Civilization 3.0, that's a sweet melon. It's an entirely different thing, designed from the ground up for a positive, harmonious life. It's not about fixing the old, it's about replacing it completely. And this is it, the author's final, powerful prophecy. The end result of this whole transition, they argue, is nothing less than creating a literal heaven on earth, a world finally free from all those chronic cancers of the past. Now, what's really wild is that this essay is dated January 2026, which places this whole vision right around the corner. It's a radical, top-down plan for humanity's future, all driven by AI and guided by these so-called ascended beings. Now, whether you see this as a prophetic blueprint or just a utopian fantasy, it does make you wonder, right? As we hand more and more of our world over to technology, are we actually building a heaven on earth? Or are we just creating a more efficient version of the same old flawed world?